The grand ballroom lights dimmed just as the MC stepped to the podium. But my eyes stayed fixed on the man in the navy uniform near the kitchen doors. I was Edward Thompson, 62 years old, working security at the Chicago Lakeside Convention Center on a Friday night that would upend everything. My son Ryan stood 20 feet away in his tailored tuxedo, laughing with pharmaceutical executives, unaware that the anonymous bone marrow donor he'd hunted for 16 years was the same father he dismissed an hour earlier as just security. I adjusted my radio and felt the thick manila envelope press against my chest. Inside were loan papers, medical records, payment stubs, 16 years of proof that saving Ryan's life had cost me nearly $2 million and my own future. 3 hours earlier, Ryan had called me after the gala speech prep. "Dad, we need space. Don't contact us." Those words still rang in my ears. He'd hung up right after announcing a $50,000 reward for any lead on his mystery savior. The hero who, unknown to him, had donated bone marrow when Ryan was 18 and dying of acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Let me take you back 6 hours. I arrived at 5 p.m. for my shift. The convention center transformed into a glittering fundraiser for the hospital's bone marrow program. Crystal chandeliers, linen-draped tables, each place setting worth more than my weekly paycheck. Ryan, now 34, earned $200,000 a year as a regional sales director for Apex Pharma. He and his wife Emily owned a $400,000 home in the suburbs with a finished basement and 2 luxury SUVs. Emily, a pediatric oncology nurse, drove a silver Audi and spoke passionately about saving children's lives. I wore the standard-issue polyester uniform, badge clipped to my belt, radio crackling with routine checks. Ryan arrived with Emily on his arm. When he saw me at the entrance checking credentials, surprise flashed across his face. "Dad, what are you doing here?" Emily leaned in and whispered something I caught fragments of. Embarrassing, uniform. Ryan pulled me aside into a quiet alcove. "Look, this is a big networking night," he said, voice low. "Pharma execs, hospital leaders, people who can open doors for me. Maybe take the night off." I reminded him I was scheduled. He glanced at my uniform, the cheap fabric, the practical shoes. These folks measure success differently. "You get it, right? I'm giving a speech about my donor search. It's personal, but it's also professional leverage." His voice cracked with real emotion. 16 years I've searched for the person who saved me anonymously. Tonight I'm offering a reward. Connections here could finally crack it. I nodded, understanding perfectly. Being seen with me complicated his image. Emily appeared, mentioning Dr. Marcus Hale from Apex wanted to meet. She gave me a polite nod reserved for service staff. Ryan pressed a $20 bill into my hand. "Grab dinner somewhere else." My treat. $20 from the son I'd raised alone after his mother died in a car accident when he was 12. The son I'd worked double shifts for during his childhood illnesses. The son whose life I'd saved at the cost of my own stability. "Keep it," I said quietly. Ryan sighed. "Don't be stubborn. This matters to me." I looked at him. The healthy glow. Confident stance. Designer watch. All of it because of a decision I'd made in a sterile Chicago Memorial Hospital room 16 years ago. "I'll stay out of your way." He smiled in relief and walked toward the ballroom with Emily. But something inside me shifted. The envelope felt heavier. The secrets I'd kept to spare his pride now felt like chains on my dignity. For 16 years I'd stayed silent, letting Ryan believe insurance covered everything, letting him attribute my financial struggles to poor choices. He never asked about the second job, the late bills, the heat turned down in winter. He never offered help despite seeing my old car, my small apartment, my exhaustion. I spent the next hour at my post replaying October 12th, 2008. Ryan collapsed during his freshman year at Northwestern. The call came while I was on a construction site foreman shift. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Stage 4. 15% survival odds without transplant. The registry's search dragged on. His condition worsened. Doctors gave weeks. I got tested secretly. The $400 screening went on a maxed credit card. Results: perfect match. 6 out of 6 HLA points. Doctors called it a miracle. Family matches rarely exceed 50%, let alone identical. But the extraction procedure was experimental for donors over 50. Insurance refused coverage without a $68,000 supplemental fee. I had nothing, so I took signature loans at 12%. The surgery on November 5th left me in agony, 4 hours of hollow needles into my pelvis. Pain like fire. But nothing compared to watching Ryan fade. His transplant succeeded after 2 rejections. But complications racked up $740,000 in total care. Insurance covered most, but not the donor costs. Extended stays, experimental drugs at $4,000 per dose, or emergency interventions. I paid $231,000 out of pocket plus the initial $68,000. Total borrowed $299,000. Lost foreman income over 16 years added another $500,000 plus interest. Monthly payments of $3,400 for my $2,600 take-home left me scraping by on $300 for food, heat, everything. No savings. No retirement at 62. I worked security nights, stocked shelves weekends, delivered papers pre-dawn. Ryan assumed I was simply frugal or unsuccessful. As the gala crowd mingled, I watched Ryan network seamlessly. The debt weighed heavier than ever. Staying silent meant more invisibility. Revealing meant shattering his self-made narrative. But tonight, the man who'd clocked in anonymously for 16 years was ready to stop being invisible. The ballroom hummed with conversations, clinking glasses, and the low thrum of networking. I patrolled near the bar when Ryan's voice carried clearly. Ryan Thompson, Apex Pharma Regional Director. He introduced himself to a woman in an elegant black gown. This is my wife, Emily, pediatric oncology nurse. Dr. Sarah Klein from a major pharma firm smiled. Impressive background. Emily beamed. Ryan lowered his voice. Tonight's personal. I'm hoping to find my bone marrow donor. Leukemia at 18. Anonymous savior. Been searching 16 years, investigators, social campaigns, registries. Offering $50,000 for solid leads. Dr. Klein's expression softened. Extraordinary story. Have you exhausted the National Registry? Ryan listed efforts. Emily added some people prefer privacy. Ryan shook his head firmly. No one saves a life and wants nothing. This person deserves recognition. Maybe more. A pharma executive joined. Heard about the reward. Serious gratitude. Ryan replied. They gave me my career, marriage, future family. I owe them everything. I stood 6 feet away adjusting my radio. Invisible in uniform. The irony burned. Ryan described me perfectly without realizing. Emily spotted me. Security issue? Routine patrol. Ryan turned, face flushing. Dad, what are you doing? My job. Dr. Klein looked confused. You know each other? Ryan hesitated, then admitted. This is my father, Edward Thompson. The group's warmth cooled instantly. Handshakes became brief. Polite smiles strained. Security work important, the executive said with condescension. Emily jumped in. Edward was just checking safety. Dr. Klein dismissed me politely. Ryan's jaw tightened. Dad. Private conversation here. I asked innocent questions about matching, extraction risks, age cutoffs over 50, out-of-pocket costs. Ryan grew impatient explaining HLA typing. 6-point matches rare, even in family. Lucky beyond belief, Dr. Bennett called it a miracle. I mentioned Dr. Laura Bennett casually. Ryan was surprised I knew her name from the hospital. Their dismissal stung deeper each time. Here was Ryan detailing the exact sacrifice I'd made. Painful procedure, financial ruin, age risks, while treating me like an interruption to his important life. I lingered near auction tables observing. Ryan's group continued, but glances my way increased. Something in our exchange lingered with Dr.
Klein.
Dinner began at 8:15. I monitored kitchen flow when Dr. Laura Bennett approached quietly. Edward, didn't expect you here. She'd been Ryan's hematologist. Knew every detail of the 2008 donation. This is the Donor Appreciation Gala. Your son is keynote. She studied my face. How are you? Really? I met her eyes. Never better. She lowered her voice, mentioning active registry records. Donor ID traceable. Signed consents still filed. She sensed my internal war. Sometimes the right thing is speaking truth. I asked her opinion. How does a son search 16 years for someone he sees bi-weekly at family dinners? She blinked. I explained Ryan's identity built on mysterious benefactor narrative. Revealing his ordinary father would complicate it. Dr. Bennett understood the ethical bind. What are you going to do? My job for now. She warned of consequences for Ryan's reputation. I reminded her of mine. As she stepped away to make a call. The first seed of revelation planted. The program started at 8:45. Ryan took the podium to thunderous applause. 200 medical professionals, execs, administrators listened as he recounted his diagnosis at 18, 15% odds. The anonymous donor's gift. Voice breaking. He described the search, investigators, campaigns, and announced the $50,000 reward. He spoke of ordinary heroes, then acknowledged me publicly as the everyday father who'd raised him alone, worked multiple jobs, never complained. Polite applause followed, but the executives checked phones. Ryan used me as a feel-good footnote before diving into technical search details. 6-point HLA rarity. 1 in 20,000 odds. Donor profile, male. 50 to 60 in 2008. Significant out-of-pocket costs. Extraordinary motivation. Dr. Bennett sat front row, glancing back at me repeatedly. She knew the profile matched me exactly. Ryan described my life without recognizing it. The crowd engaged with the puzzle, but I felt the moment crystallizing. Ryan had described his hero perfectly, he just hadn't seen me. Ryan concluded his speech to sustained applause. The auction proceeded.
But Dr.
Bennett hadn't returned to her seat. She conferred with the MC, who announced a special edition.
Dr.
Laura Bennett, chief hematologist at Chicago Memorial, would share perspective. Ryan looked pleased, expecting endorsement. At 68, silver-haired, elegant in black gown and pearls,
Dr.
Bennett commanded respect. She recounted Ryan's arrival near death in 2008. Case fascinating due to perfect match. 6-point HLA, extraordinarily rare outside family. Ryan nodded, assuming support for his cause. She detailed donor, 54-year-old male. Experimental protocol, 68,000 out of pocket. 4-hour extraction under anesthesia. Significant risks. Blood loss. Recovery. Anonymity strictly requested. No contact. No credit. The room quieted. This was an endorsement.
Dr.
Bennett continued. She'd wrestled with ethics for years. Registry records permanent. IDs archived. A single query could identify the donor. But privacy versus justice? Listening to Ryan's speech about ordinary heroes and quiet service, especially his mention of his father, crystallized her decision. What if the donor wasn't a stranger? She asked directly at Ryan. What if extraordinary motivation came from someone who loved you more than life? What if the financial resources were borrowed money they couldn't repay? What if anonymity protected you from guilt rather than hiding from gratitude? Gasps rippled. She pulled her phone, opened the database publicly. Donor Registry ID, BMR 392847. Donation, November 5th, 2008. Recipient, Ryan Michael Thompson. Compatibility, 100% 6-marker HLA match. Donor, Edward James Thompson. Age at donation, 54. Relationship, father. Chaos erupted. 200 heads swiveled to me in the shadows at the back. Polyester uniforms stark against glamour. Ryan's face drained of color, confusion, disbelief, horror. Impossible, he whispered, voice carrying in stunned silence. My donor is anonymous. Emily gripped his arm. What is she saying?
Dr.
Bennett read on. Donor procedure costs $68,000. Additional recipient complications, $231,000. Total family obligation, $299,000. She asked if I still held loan docs. Every eye locked on me. Execs, administrators, doctors who'd politely applauded my everyday hero mentioned minutes earlier. I walked the long aisle to the podium, footsteps echoing. Phones rose to record. At the podium, I opened the envelope. You wanted your anonymous donor. Ryan. First document. Donor ID card BMR 392847. Issued 2008. Compatibility results showing perfect match probability under 1 in 20,000. Signed consent for experimental extraction at age 54. Cost $68,000 via 12% signature loan. Medical discharge. 1.2 liters marrow extracted. Expected pain. Minor bleeding. Recovery felt like railroad spikes in your pelvis, I told him quietly. Barely walked 6 weeks. Back to work in 10 days because I couldn't afford time off. Loan agreement. $68,000 principal. Monthly $738. Thick stack of 16 years receipts. Then complications costs. Experimental meds $18,000. Extended stays $45,000. Follow-ups $32,000. Rejections $18,000. Second loan $231,000. Monthly $2,662. Combined $3,400 every month without fail. Current balance $298,000. Lost income dropped from $68,000 foreman salary to $35,000 security. 16-year reduction over $570,000. Grand total sacrifice just over $2 million including interest.
Fees.
Ongoing payments to 2031. The room was silent except sniffles. Some cried openly. Ryan shook his head. Dad, why didn't you tell me? You never asked. I'd let him build his identity around mysterious savior. Revealing his embarrassing security guard father would collapse that story. Tonight you described me perfectly, age. Costs. Motivation. You just didn't recognize your own father. I listed humiliations, suggesting I leave. Handing $20 for dinner elsewhere. Dismissing me in front of colleagues. Your hero clocks in at 11 p.m. every night. Your benefactor makes $35,000 and pays your medical bills until 79. I gathered documents. I gave you life twice, birth and at 18. I'm done giving.
Thanked Dr.
Bennett for courage. Walked through stunned crowd out of the ballroom. Voices rose behind me. Chairs scraping. Phones buzzing. Freedom washed over me for the first time in 16 years. I reached the parking lot before Ryan caught up. Tuxedo disheveled. Speech notes clutched. A crowd streamed out. Some filming.
Dad. Wait.
We need to talk. What's left to say? Everything. Why hide it 16 years? Why embarrass me publicly? Emily arrived breathless. Edward. That was cruel. Ryan's been grateful his whole adult life. Has he? I've sat at your dinners 8 years hearing him praise his mystery benefactor. Never once thanked the man across the table. Ryan ran hands through hair. I had no idea. That's the problem. You never wanted to know. I asked the honest question. Would he have offered $50,000 reward if he'd known it was me? His hesitation answered everything. I showed banking app. $437 checking. 0 savings. 0 retirement. $298,000 debt. $3,400 due soon. Emily paled. We had no idea finances were destroyed. Bone marrow over 50 is expensive when insurance denies experimental work.
Dr.
Bennett and others approached. She apologized for revealing without permission but felt the community needed truth about parental sacrifice. Hospital admin praised the extraordinary act. Ryan scrolled stats on his phone. Donor risks over 50, 30% serious complications, 15% permanent disability, 3% death. You knew and did it anyway. You're my son. More gathered. Phones recording. Ryan offered to pay loans. I noted his finances. $200,000 salary. $4,000 mortgage. $1,200 car payments. $800 student loans. Comfortable but no $300,000 cash. He was shocked I knew details. I pay attention. What do you want? I thought 16 years of invisibility. Embarrassment. Taken for granted love. Understand I didn't sacrifice for gratitude or respect. I did it because I love you. But love has limits. Ryan. And tonight you reached mine. I explained next steps. I'd go to my 2-bedroom apartment. He'd return to his life. We'd consider rebuilding on honesty. Not illusions. No more dismissive dinners. No more just security introductions. No more medical topic condescension. I understand transplants better than most oncologists. I lived one. Ryan apologized tearfully. I acknowledged, but questioned if sorry enough to change. As I drove away in my 15-year-old Honda, leaving him with witnesses, I wondered if he'd learn what searching for lost connection felt like. The story exploded online within hours. TikTok video of revelation trended. Local news covered security guard's $2 million secret. By Monday, pharma circles buzzed.
Dr.
Klein questioned Ryan's supervisor about judgment, if he missed his own father as donor. What else? Accounts requested other reps. Ryan's mortgage, co-signed by me for better rate, became critical. I called the bank Tuesday to remove co-signer. Loan callable immediately. 30 days to pay or refinance. Ryan panic called. House loan called due. Foreclosure threat. I reminded him of past embarrassments. Michelle, wait. Emily, accused vindictiveness. I clarified, stopping my role in his success as he'd stopped emotional support for me. Wednesday newspaper detailed finances. Records.
Dr.
Bennett interview, painted me working class hero. Ryan ungrateful. His company restructured territory. Commissions. Reassessed future. Thursday evening Ryan appeared at my apartment. I've been thinking about honest relationship. But do you want me to lose house?
Job.
Marriage? I reaffirmed love without control. He begged help saving house. I refused. Now he lived consequences of choices. As I'd lived mine 16 years unknowingly. When ready for honest father-son bond. Call. He left shattered. 3 weeks later Ryan called. Can we talk in person? I'll bring coffee. He arrived with 2 $5 cups, $10, 1/3 my daily food budget. Looking around my sparse apartment, second-hand sofa, 13-inch TV, card table, Stacked bills, he saw it truly for first time. I lost the house. Bank foreclosed Friday. Emily and I staying with her parents. Looking for rental. Work. Probation. Reduced territory. Smaller commissions, likely job loss in months. Emily's parents suggested suing for distress. Ryan admitted they didn't understand my sacrifice. He'd researched donation risks. Realizing 30% complication odds, I'd accepted knowingly. Why hide the cost? Why let me search 16 years? I explained wanting guilt-free normal life for him. Not obligation to father. Instead, he'd owed gratitude to phantom stranger. Ryan reached across table. Hand on mine. Hi.
Dad.
I'm Ryan Thompson. You saved my life. And I've taken you for granted 16 years. I'd like to learn being better son. I shook his hand like strangers meeting anew. Nice to meet you, Ryan. I'm Edward Thompson, your father. I've loved you more than my life, 16 years. I'd like learning pride in you again. That was 3 months ago. Ryan visits Sundays now, bringing groceries, not coffee. He asks about payments, retirement plans. Introduces me to new friends as my father who saved my life. No new job yet, but stopped hunting mystery benefactors. Sometimes the deepest love hides in plain sight. The question lingers, what hidden sacrifices have you missed in your own family? What ordinary hero have you overlooked while chasing shadows? In the end, recognition delayed 16 years cost Ryan his illusions, his house, nearly his career. But perhaps it finally taught him the true price of love and the cost of ingratitude. Would you have seen your father as hero sooner? Or would the uniform have blinded you too? The silence after such revelations echoes longest.